This is Maundy Thursday, and today I'm inviting us to encounter Jesus on his last night. By mid-afternoon the following day, Jesus is stretched out on a cross, his body stripped, striped, pierced, his life ebbing away. Jesus knows his words and actions this night will echo in his friends' memories for years, for generations, for centuries, right to this moment. Remember the scene with me. It begins in the upper room in Jerusalem. It's Passover, that Jewish day of remembrance, celebrating Israel's deliverance from slavery in Egypt. Hundreds of thousands have come to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover, and this year, more than ever, the city is buzzing with rumors about Messiah. Prophets have predicted that someday, maybe today, Messiah will arrive to deliver Israel from all oppressors forever. The disciples expect these cozy lamplit hours to carry on into the evening, full of toast to all the good years to come. Suddenly, a spark of contention ignites among them, and they begin to quarrel about who should have the most prominent place. Tempers flare, angry looks crisscross the room. In a gesture of just overwhelming generosity, Jesus sweeps off his mantle and tunic. He wraps a towel around his body. Then, taking a basin of water, he begins to go from man to man. Kneeling on the floor, he gently washes their rough, dusty feet. Shocked, the men lower their eyes in shame. Why would tomorrow's king behave like tonight's houseboy? Later, Jesus tells them, "Most assuredly, one of you will betray me." And sharp glances dart from one disciple to another. And then comes the clincher. Jesus tells Peter that before sunup, Peter will deny his Lord 3 times, and an awful realization begins to dawn on them. Their whole mission, as they've imagined it, is doomed. Of course, Jesus has been trying to tell them for months that his appointment in Jerusalem is with a cross, not a throne. But his warnings are mixed with predictions of Messiah returning in power and glory, and the disciples hear what they want to hear. Sound familiar? We do it too. Fast forward a bit and find 11 dejected men following Jesus down the stairs and out into the cool night air. Down the hill, out the city, deep into the valley, then up toward their destination. Ahead of them looms the Mount of Olives and the Garden of Gethsemane. I've been to the Garden of Gethsemane. In it today there are olive trees whose age is lost in antiquity. Botanists claim they're over 3,000 years old. Josephus relates Titus cut down all the trees in Jerusalem in 70 A.D., but that's in Jerusalem, and this is not. This is one mountain over. So if these trees escape destruction, they are the very contemporaries of Christ. If not, they are without a doubt the shoots of those under which Jesus prayed that night. Pliny said, "The olive tree does not die." An olive tree is cut down when it's old, in the hundreds of years. They are cut in order to become fruitful again. The next year, new shoots will grow out of the stump, and a new olive tree with ancient roots will soon be producing olives again. No doubt some of the trees there today have witnessed the night of Jesus' agony. In Gethsemane, the olives are picked, placed in a stone crusher and smashed, and then the crushed olive pulp is put in a porous sack with heavy stones on top. The word Gethsemane comes from 2 Hebrew words, gat, which means a place for pressing, and shimanim, which means oils. The pressure squeezes the oil from the pulp. Now, let's think together about the kind of place Gethsemane is. First, Gethsemane is a place of pressure. On this Thursday, Jesus enters the olive press, Gethsemane, and the sweet oil of grace and submission to the Father will be extracted from his life. For Jesus, this Garden of Gethsemane is a place of intense pressures. Jesus knows what's coming, but as he looks into the cup he's about to drink, he's overcome with anguish. He says, "My soul is exceedingly so sorrowful." He knows he's about to suffer intense physical pain. He knows he's about to become sin on the cross. He knows he will be abandoned by his nation and his followers. He knows he's about to be tried, rejected, and condemned to death by the very people he came to save. I like the way Park Avenue's The Promise shows this scene. Satan is weaving all around Jesus, adding pressure, opposing Jesus, even as Jesus prays. Jesus is under such intense satanic attack in the garden that he might die right there. It's a time of spiritual impression like no other man has ever experienced. Squeezed out of him are drops of blood. First, Gethsemane is a place of extreme pressure. Second, Gethsemane is a place of prayer. Jesus leaves 8 of his men at the gate, taking 3 deeper with him. He tells these 3, Peter, James, and John, to wait for him and to watch, to give strict attention to, while he goes and prays. These 3 are to keep their eyes open for trouble, and they're to pray with and for him. Jesus falls on the ground and begins to call on his Father, whom he addresses as Abba, Aramaic for Daddy. It's a word of intense intimacy. And for what does Jesus pray? First, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. Father, keep me from dying. Keep this bitter experience from coming to me. It's an altogether human plea. We've so often projected Jesus so far into the divine realm that we've forgotten about his humanity. Jesus not only experienced the glow of the divine, but also the tang of the human. And in Gethsemane, Jesus cries out, "Save me. I don't want to die. Take this cup from me. If there's any other way, let me do it that way." But there is no other way. And so he finishes his prayer, "Nevertheless. Nevertheless." And this signals the third place Gethsemane is. Finally, Gethsemane is a place of priority. While Jesus is praying and wrestling, the disciples, what are they doing? Why, they're asleep. Jesus asks them to watch, but they're so tired and fall asleep. Our Lord's priority is the will of his Father. Their priority is themselves and their own needs. Now, in their defense, it's quite late after midnight, and it's been an emotionally exhausting day. These men, given what they've heard, are surely depressed and frustrated and confused. Perhaps they sleep out of necessity rather than apathy. So Jesus returns and finds them asleep. And when he does, he speaks to Peter. "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not watch for 1 hour?" Notice Jesus calls him Simon. This is Peter's whole name. And that means to hearken or to listen. And it seems Peter hasn't listened and isn't acting like the new man Peter. He's acting like the old man Simon. He isn't acting like the rock. Peter has just boasted he's willing to die with Jesus. Now he can't even stay awake praying for 1 hour. Jesus goes away to pray twice more, and each time he returns, he finds them still sleeping. They have a different set of priorities than Jesus. He lives to fulfill his Father's will. They live to gratify themselves and meet their own needs. Imagine how their failure to stand with Jesus must have added to his pain, sense of loneliness, isolation. But Jesus has his priorities right. Nevertheless, he says, say it with me. You know it. I know you know it. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. That's the bottom line. Not my will, but yours, God. And as we conclude our thoughts together, let that be our prayer this Maundy Thursday. Not my will, but yours be done. Peace.